Now, the latest job stats paint a mixed picture about the labour market in South Africa. The quarterly employment statistics survey released by Stats SA shows that 119,000 people lost jobs in the second quarter of this year. But in terms of the good news, if you compare the year-on-year figures, 74,000 more people found jobs between June this year and June last year. Now, earlier this month, the Stats SA quarterly labour force survey for the second quarter showed that the unemployment rate decreased from 34.5% in the first quarter to 33.9% in the second quarter. The quarterly employment statistics released today are different from the labour force survey stats because the Stats SA does not collect data from households but rather from businesses. The number of people employed, 9.9 million roughly in South Africa, excluding agriculture. There are still nearly 8 million people who are jobless, and that excludes people who have simply given up looking for work. To discuss, we're joined on the line now by the Quarterly Employment Stats Director from Stats SA, that's Matlapane Masupye. Mr. Masupye, thank you for being with us. What is more important, the annual stats, which show that we created jobs in this country, or the latest quarterly stats which don't look that good, a loss of nearly 120,000 jobs?
Thank you so much, and to your listeners. Our survey for June 2022 shows that 9,948,000 people were employed. This is a quarterly decrease of 119,000, but a yearly increase of 74,000. And if you break it down into part-time and full-time, but part-time we are referring to those working 40 hours or more per week, and part-time are those working less than 40 hours per week. The results are as follows. Full-time registered 8,826,000, while part-time gave 1,122,000. Looking at the movement between part-time and full-time, starting with full-time, quarter-on-quarter, full-time decreased by 16,000, and year-on-year also a decrease of 80,000. And part-time, on the other hand, decreased by 103,000 quarter-on-quarter, but year-on-year is a decrease of 154,000.
Mr. Masupye, thank you for that overview. My question, though, what is the most important number here for financial watchers? And there's so many figures that it's confusing to South Africans. Is it more important that jobs were lost between quarter one and quarter two, or that year-on-year jobs were gained?
I think quarter-on-quarter comparison is subjected to project. I think the best way to look at this information is by looking at over time. For example, our employment in 2009 we were sitting at 8,179,000, and currently 2022 we are sitting at 9,948,000, which is showing that we are actually, our economy is actually it's improving compared to what we were before. We had the impact of COVID. But now the year-on-year comparison is showing that the economy went back to normality. Hence, we have that increase on year-on-year.
Which is good news. So more people are finding work, but of course the increase has to keep up with the population, right?
Yes and no on the other side. Because remember, our main task or focus is to go out there and measure, and then the economists will be the one saying whether this information are in line with the population or not.
The quarter-on-quarter losses in jobs, does that give us an indication of which sectors are doing well and which sectors are struggling? The losses were mainly in community services, business services and construction in a country where we want to really fix infrastructure.
The first industry which contributed to the drop is community services, with a drop of 100,000. And when we unpack the community services, it's your national department, provincial, municipalities, universities and technicals, and likely your extra budgetary. And this 100,000, specifically, it is because of the census project. Alone, census resulted in job sharing of 98,000. So this 100,000 basically came from the people employed to work on sets of projects because the project has ended. That's why we saw that drop. Your business services is a drop of 15,000. Currently, things are not looking good. Under construction, yes, over time our construction has not been performing well, and manufacturing also a drop of 12,000. However, there are industries which showed an increase. Your trade, an increase of 17,000, mining, an increase of 4,000, and transport, an increase of 1,000. Trade is not surprising. Remember, your development will go hand in hand in building of malls. Because when we get the breakdown of your trade, we realize that this employment was actually caused by full time, which means actually our big trading companies are opening branches all over South Africa.
Give us more information because some of the data suggests that companies don't want to employ people full time. So there's an increase in contract work or part-time work. But for job security, a lot of people would prefer that permanent job offering. What are you seeing overall?
Yeah. Remember, it's tricky. When you look at full-time talks about number of hours work, or rather both full-time and part-time talks about number of hours work, not necessarily a person being permanent. And unfortunately, the survey is not designed to check whether people who are in full-time move to part-time or vice versa. It's just giving the two parts compared to each other. But it's very difficult to say companies are moving to full-time or companies are moving to part-time because the survey is not designed to give that information.
All right. What a pity, because I guess that shows the confidence that companies have in this economy. I don't know if you are familiar with the liquidation numbers released by Stats SA. So coming out at a similar time showing that liquidations increased by 44.8% in August compared with the same month last year. Surely, Mr. Masupye, that doesn't bode well for job creation in the future if we're still seeing companies going under.
Yeah, yes, even if that is not my area of specialization, sometimes the two can talk to each other, sometimes they cannot. Like I said before, we prefer that we give our information and users out there will try to crunch the two parts. Because sometimes you can have employment increasing and your liquidation decreasing and vice versa. Because not only that, they'll talk to each other, the two results.
So are you concerned in terms of future job numbers that we're seeing this jump in liquidations by nearly 45%?
I would say that, remember, our function is to go out there and measure and give out the results. I can't say this is a concern or not. It's up to the policymakers to address that.
All right, so there's a focus on tourism today. It's World Tourism Day. So just looking at those liquidations, there were liquidations in trade, catering and accommodation. Any comments on how tourism is faring in South Africa?
Yeah, I won't answer it in terms of liquidation, but I can answer from the QS site, which we have published today. When we zoom into trade, we have a sector called hotel and restaurant. It has also improved, which actually says that hospitality sector is improving, given that we are now moved to normality, given the challenges we had during COVID. From the QS side, it's also showing that the hospitality sector is improving.
All right, so that would be the good news in the latest stats for tourism specifically.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Matlapane Masupye, Quarterly Employment Stats Director, just taking us through some of the numbers. And remember, we'll still get that labour force survey, which in future, which gives us an exact number in terms of unemployment as a percentage.